This is Ifan from the Strategic Day Trader, and this is your market wrap for July 23rd, 2019. Q's up 0.6% and the SPY up 0.66, both very similar. Okay. Coming into today, we were still bullish on the long term, neutral on the short term. Okay, but now we are starting to resume this uptrend. We did identify last Friday that if we were to recover from this red bar, that would be the most bullish scenario for the market short term, long term. Okay. I was saying more if we gap up to it, that would definitely propel us higher, or at least give me a very clear bullish bias. Instead, we kind of paused and are now kind of grinding our way to it. So we may not get follow through on the very first break tomorrow of today's high. We may have to pause a little bit here, but the fact that we are recovering from that red bar on the Qs and SPY is putting us back to bullish. Okay, so now that we have resumed this uptrend, put in a higher low here, we are looking back to bullish. So even after this red bar here, right, we wanted to see the next entry, whether that was a base and then a breakdown, or if this got followed through some kind of sell setup after breaking, right? So, you know, we only got to a neutral bias. That was as, I guess, bearish, you could say, as we got to. But since then, there was no follow through. That red bar is being negated. So we did kind of have a grind up into it. So I wouldn't be surprised if our breakout doesn't immediately lead to those new highs in the Qs and SPY. But now that we've gotten this grind higher, pullbacks are viable, and base breakouts, right, if we get one, should be also considered bullish. Okay, so right here, we don't really have a base, right? What we have here is not a breakout. It's a pullback that has already reached up into resistance. So, you know, if tomorrow we break above today's high, that's not really going to be the spot that we want to be initiating a bullish bias. Okay, so either we break out and then on the next pullback, we can play like on this retracement here. You see we got a series of lower highs, right? We can play that long. Or if it maybe spends the morning resting or all of tomorrow resting, we can play the next breakout and expect new highs there, okay? So back to bullish bias on the short term and on the long term. We wanted to see if this pivot here on the daily would hold, and so far it is holding. It did get retested. Looks like it was given a pretty serious test there of whether or not that support would hold, and it sure did. All right, so let's talk about what we had to pick from today as far as individual names, things reporting. I had 5 things that I wanted to start off with today, and that was so based on the pre-market gap. To the short side, I had ACAD as my favorite gap down. Really only needed to gap to about 24, and that would be clearing most of the base enough to be played. Ended up gapping a little bit further. Okay, and this was okay to play. I think there was an idea on this. I didn't end up playing it. Ended up deciding to pass on it, see if it gave me a secondary entry here as it started to break down into those new lows. And then I think would have kind of trailed out somewhere in here. So it would have worked. Not a huge play, but the ACAD was my number 1 gap down. And then number 2 gap down was the ZION. And so actually this one did get kind of bought off the lows here. It did show strength right at the open. So this one I didn't even see any kind of setup on really. This I find a little bit too aggressive, but you can see there was some follow through the short side there, and then it's going to close more towards the highs. So this one never really materialized into any kind of pattern that I would have liked. I did like the ACAD intraday more as that was grinding lower. But those were the 2 favorite shorts. I actually think both of them can be watched tomorrow to see if they give a pattern, and still the bias remains bearish on these 2. Okay, Zion and ACAD I think can be carried over into tomorrow. As far as the gap ups, I had 3 favorites. The AN, all right, which worked right off the open there. The KO also. And the third one was the GPK. GPK was the third one, okay? You can see kind of the similarities in these gaps, why I'm favoring these, right? Clearing resistance, gapping to an area where there is clearance for higher. The GPK not at all-time highs, but the the KO is, okay, that's all-time highs for the KO, okay, cleared up for higher. And then the AN, I had as the number one, just was a little bit on the spready side this morning, but really did have nice follow through to the upside. So those were the favorite gap ups, okay? And that's based on our gaps ranking system that we teach in the Strategic Day Trader on which ones to focus on, okay? But that we ended up playing the TRU in the morning here. Okay, this one I found a little bit later, but you can see the similarities here, right? So it kind of tells you where my focus is. Like I know what I'm looking for, right? I'm not just chasing something because someone on CNBC said it looks good, or because the CEO said something during their conference call. It's purely purely based on the chart. Okay? Purely based on the chart, purely based on price action. Okay? All right. So this is the one that we ended up playing here is the TRU. Okay? Clearing the resistance. You can see kind of the similarities it has with the KO, right? So let's go over the setup and the numbers here on the TRU. So TRU was given to you as a play, if you're in the room, a little less than an hour after the open, okay, to be played over 81.35. So basically over this little pivot here and a stop down here at 80.70, okay? So once we broke out, we were in, okay? And then once it broke out, told you what the targets were. We're going to look for 82 initially. That gives us some nice reward to risk to start with. And that also puts the play basically into a free play on the back half. If the back half doesn't work, still not going to be a losing play. Okay. And then once we got going here and we started to trail, I said go ahead and take some here as we broke out through 82. Okay. And then the next piece came out at 11:15 right in here. Okay. It said under 70. We trailed the next piece. And then the last piece was a runner position, and I wanted to let that one run, but it ended up trailing here under the hourly. So lost a little bit on that last quarter, just a little bit worse than break even, but nice follow through at least on the initial 3 quarters there. So that was the play on the TRU. That was the focus into some clear space. Want to see how much it's going to give us. And ended up being a decent enough play there on the TRU. Even in the afternoon here, I think the KO was a nice little breakout here, right into the afternoon off the 15-minute there. So I thought there was some opportunity in the afternoon, maybe not as exciting as the morning, and that's kind of typically the case, but I think you don't have to run yourself into trouble right at the open. I mean, some of these will work. And if you're good at trading the first couple minutes, then you'll know what you're looking for, right? But I think for, especially some of the coaching clients that I've been working with who have been trying to improve some of their win rate and their Sharpe ratio and just kind of avoiding digging too big of a hole during that morning volatility when things are moving fast, slippage can be an issue. Right. And so been trying to get them to just slow down a little bit, let the opportunities come to them. Okay. And so you can see like something on this TRU, right? It didn't show up until an hour, or it wasn't called until an hour after the open. Right. And then gave you the targets. And then we were in it for at least 45 minutes for most of it. And then the last bit came out during lunch. Right. So if we're looking at what we captured here, right, this is the move that we captured. You don't have to necessarily, right, play this little drop here, try to play this back up, play this little drop, right? What I'm looking for, as much as possible, right, is the nice move. Now, this already had a nice move in the morning, but I did like the gap a lot. Was showing a lot of relative strength. So you can also see just kind of the consistency in the approach that if you played the AMAT yesterday, right, this one was able to stay in all day on the AMAT. When we played it days before, was also very similar here, right? Nice base breakout. And so that's the kind of thing that we're looking for that consistency, and then waiting for our setup to materialize, right? So, you know, sometimes we're going to be focused on stuff. You can see on most of these, right, I didn't play them, right, or they didn't even set up, like the ZION didn't really set up. The AK, I did take an order down. I was a little bit regretful on that, that I didn't end up playing it, because this was my favorite gap down. That would have worked. Not a home run or anything, right? And then KO, gave it to the room here in the afternoon to be played here. Over this high here, and it wouldn't have amounted to all that much, but again, this was one to be focused on at the open. So you can see, you know, for the most part, if you have a standard way of analyzing these gaps, wow, the KO I noticed is still moving up here, up to 54.74 now, but it doesn't matter. That you know what to look for, and it gives you better odds to be correct on which way the gap is going to go. And notice how all these bars that we're looking at, right, we're looking for nice big moves, right, big ranges, right? Looking at the TRU, big green bar there. So that's what we're focused on. So we'll see what the gaps look like tomorrow. Just wanted to let you know that I will be out tomorrow, so there won't be a market wrap tomorrow, but I will be back on Thursday. Okay, so I hope you guys have a great trading day tomorrow, and there should be plenty to look at, plenty of gaps to analyze in the pre-market. So I hope there's a lot of good ones for you to work with. Hope you have a great trading day. All right, and I will talk to you on Thursday. Okay, so, and if you're in the room, be extra nice to Sammy, as he will be taking care of you all day tomorrow with no help from me. So if you're in the room, make sure you are on your best behavior. Okay, so I hope you guys do well tomorrow. I know you will, and I will talk to you guys on Thursday. Okay, have a good evening.